What do you do when you're losing motivation? What keeps you going? How do things change for you in jiu-jitsu throughout the ranks? Guys, my name is Bill Jones. I'm the head instructor of top-level martial arts in beautiful downtown Cuyahoga Falls. I'm a black belt under Master Pedro Sauer and Tony Rinaldi. You're watching Professor's Corner. Don't forget to hit the like button, the subscribe button, whatever other button. Look, you know what needs to be done. There's an algorithm. Everybody knows about the algorithm. Help the algorithm, comment, do all that kind of stuff. Every little bit you do is very much appreciated. It does grow the channel a little bit. But I'm sorry I even have to ask for that stuff. So what are we talking about today? The question came to me about, it was actually kind of a two-part question, was, what are the expectations in jiu-jitsu throughout the ranks? And then how do you address people's motivation changing, like lack of motivation, almost like the blue belt blues and things of that nature. And there's different types of blues at different levels, right? Because there's the blue belt blues, which is usually more of a change from in motivation and a lack of inspiration. And then there's later in life blues where you're literally going through like midlife shit saying, I don't know if this is for me anymore, and I've seen people do that and I've lost members to that. And I think it's a mistake on their part every time because I think that they're looking at it incorrectly. But let's take a look at it and talk about, today we'll talk about specifically motivation and getting things done. And then maybe in another part, we'll talk about how this can change with various ranks. And then maybe another part with age. So the motivation, what is that? One of the best books out there is called Discipline Equals Freedom. It's by Jocko Willink, and he talks about discipline and really how it's like discipline that keeps you going. When I was going through school, for anybody who doesn't know, I have a degree in exercise physiology, but one of the things that I did is as far as like extracurriculars in that was went through a lot of coaching classes. And one of the things you learn is that there's kind of 3 levels to coaching someone and someone having motivation to do something. And the first level is inspiration. So that's when the person usually starts, right? Maybe they watched UFC and saw somebody really good fighting and that inspired them to get into MMA or jiu-jitsu. And they kind of wanted to be like that person or see what that was like, right? But that's a very fleeting moment, right? It might last for a couple weeks or something like that. But that inspiration is there, but it's not going to keep you going. It's going to get you started maybe, but it's not going to be what gets you through the hard days. The second level of that is motivation. Motivation is kind of between inspiration and the next level. And motivation is usually done with smaller goals, right? Like, so in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, usually it's like stripes on your white belt or even the blue belt. Your motivation is, I want to get to blue belt. I want to see what it's like, get to blue belt, get that level of skill, and I'll feel good. And then there's the last part, because once you reach those goals, motivation tends to wane. For a great example is like weight loss, right? Like you're motivated to lose weight, you lose a few pounds and you're like, oh man, that feels good. And then like all of a sudden that's good enough and you stop losing the weight. And then all of a sudden you've gained it back, right? Because you good enough set in and then you didn't keep doing the things that got you to where you were. And that's a really important thing. I've seen that happen a million times with jiu-jitsu. People come into jiu-jitsu for a number of reasons. Most of them have nothing to do with fighting whatsoever. Most of them have to do with wanting to be a better person, wanting to learn more discipline, wanting to better their lives and see if they can just do something that's hard. And then they get, a classic one. I have a buddy that had quit for a while. And when he came in, he said, look, I just don't have a lot of confidence in my life. I'm not happy with where my job is. My wife left me. We've got this tough situation with the kids. And then they got to blue belt. And by that time, they got a better job. They had a new girlfriend. They were in a better place with their ex-wife and dealing with the kids pretty well. And like, they just let jiu-jitsu go. And I don't think that person realized how much jiu-jitsu was actually helping them. It's kind of like letting your therapist go, right? Like, oh yeah, I'm a therapist, I'm feeling good, I don't need you anymore. Or, just stop doing a medication that you need just because you feel good, like that's your medicine. You need to keep doing it. And it's hard sometimes because it costs money to do and stuff like that too. But it's easy to forget what got you where you are, and that you need to keep doing that. So like this person they quit jiu-jitsu, I think not really thinking much about it. And then a few years later came back and was like, man, it was a mistake to quit, and now they're happier than ever, it seems. So that's what happens with motivation, is once you reach that goal, I reached my blue belt, you tend to start weaning off and not seeing anything else. So what keeps you going after that? What keeps you going after the motivation of, oh man, I reached my blue belt, but yeah, it'd be nice to get to purple belt, but I don't feel like going today. Or, oh man, the girl wants to go out and see a movie instead. Or man, I want to spend an extra day with my kids this week. And I'm not saying that some of those things shouldn't come into play sometimes. They should. Absolutely. Your family should take precedence sometimes. But you have to remember that you cannot take care of your family. You cannot take care of your job properly. There's so many things in life you cannot do unless you yourself are healthy physically, mentally, and spiritually. And those can, physical is a very obvious thing. Mentally can change from person to person, and spiritual definitely changes from person to person. So if you're having real problems trusting yourself and believing in yourself, you are not going to be able to properly help other people. You're just not really. So like people, a lot of times they're like, oh yeah, I have to do this for my family. And it's like, well, yeah, you're going to go to your daughter's recital. That's going to happen. You got to do that. But at the same time, your family will understand that you have needs as well. And if they don't, then, well, kids are just selfish by nature, right? Kids just need to be taught. But if your spouse doesn't believe you need stuff that is yours for you to be healthy, I don't know, that's not a healthy relationship. But anyway, that's a whole other topic, I think. Anyway, what we're getting into here is what happens when the motivation is gone. That's where the discipline comes in, right? That's the working out every day. Like I need to go for my 2-mile walk every day, and I don't feel like doing it today. I'm tired. I have to wake up early to do it. I stayed up a little late last night because of this or that. And I just don't feel like it today. And this is where Jocko Willink has one of the best. It was in his podcast, and Echo was asking him, what do you do on those days? Those days when you don't want to get up, those days when you don't feel like it. And he goes, oh, those days. He goes, I do the work. I get up anyway. I go through the grind. Your body is sometimes sending you, and I'm trying to quote it, but I'm definitely paraphrasing. He goes, your body might be sending you a signal that you're a little overworked, a little overstressed, and you might need a break. That could be true. But don't take that break today. Go through the work, do it anyway. Go through the motions, and then tomorrow, if you still feel that way, take a break then. And I think what you find is most of the time, if you're like me, you go to like, you don't feel like going to class, you don't feel like doing this, but once you've gone, you feel like mint, man. You're like, man, I accomplished it even though I didn't want to, and that usually feels even better, right? Like than just a normal class. So that's where discipline comes in, because discipline will trump motivation, it will trump inspiration, it will trump everything. One of the arguments I hear about losing weight, for anybody who doesn't know, this is not something I've been putting out there as much, but I'm going to start talking about it more. I've recently lost 40 pounds. And the reason I didn't want to talk about it right away was because I did it relatively quickly. And I wanted to be sure I was keeping it off, but I've kept it off for about 4 months now. And there's no reason to think that I won't keep it off forever. And I plan to lose 20 more. So the point of that is, there are going to be times that you're just hungry. Why? Because I went from 280 pounds to 240 pounds, and I had to cut calories. That is the only way to do it. You have to cut calories. You have to put yourself in a caloric deficit. And that means that you're going to feel hungry because you're used to eating whatever, 3,000 calories a day, and now you're only eating 2,200 calories a day. You're going to feel hungry, period. All these diets and fad diets that sit there and go, oh no, you'll lose weight without feeling hungry. They're full of shit. They're full of shit. You're going to feel hungry. You're going to get exhausted of it. It's going to get on you mentally. You have to just do it anyway. You have to accept, as you go into that diet, I am going to feel hungry. I am going to feel an intense desire to eat things I shouldn't eat, right? You've been addicted to sugar, addicted to like these fast fried foods. You're addicted to those, especially if you're grossly overweight. You're going to feel the want for those things, and it's going to be hard. You're going to be potentially just in tears, driving past McDonald's, driving past Chick-fil-A, not feeling good because you want it so bad. You're salivating, and in your mind, you're just in this argument with yourself saying, go get it, go eat it. And if you win that battle, though, when you finally drive past and you finally get to where you were going and you didn't stop, you just got a little stronger. And that's what continuing in jiu-jitsu does. That's why it's so important. That's so valuable. It's doing things that are hard. And I know that for some of you out there who have never been out of shape or who've always been in pretty good shape, you have no idea what I'm talking about. You don't understand why it's hard at all. Like, you look at a donut and you're like, why would I ever put that trash in my mouth? And I get it. I get that you exist. I'm telling you, there are people that is an extremely difficult thing to do for. You can believe me, you cannot believe me. It is an extremely difficult thing, and they are going through an argument in their head every time they skip it, and it is a win every time. So, because like for guys like me, it's not just a donut, it's 5 donuts. It's 6 donuts, right? Like, we don't eat just one. It's like a fucking potato chip. You don't eat just one potato chip. You eat 40 potato chips. You eat an entire fucking bowl of potato chips, and then try to make it look like you didn't eat as many by folding the bag just so. That's an addiction. So, and I'm not trying to get into the weight loss track, but it's the same idea, right? It's this battle inside of doing what you know is good for you, what you know is hard, and doing it anyway. Whether it's working out, whether it's eating right, whether it's going to class, doesn't matter. You have to accept that it is going to be really, really hard, and you're going to do it anyway. That is what I look for as an instructor in my black belts. The people who are going to go from brown belt to black belt, are they willing to do what's hard, what they don't want to do? And then, of course, there's the age component, right? Like, I don't expect a 45-year-old going to black belt to be training nearly as hard or nearly as many hours as a 24-year-old or 25-year-old who might be going to black belt. We'll say maybe a 30-year-old, because 25-year-olds going there are a little more rare, although these days they all start at 12, so maybe not. My point is this, like, that's what it takes. And that's the kind of person that gets to black belt in jiu-jitsu. It's the kind of person that you have those long car rides home. You're glad you went, but man, it was so tedious to sit there and just get tapped out 100 times, or to be trying to hit this move that, your professor says that you should be able to do, and, you can't do it. I remember doing a training with one of my instructor training sessions, and we were adding some kicking elements to the kids program. And one of my instructors, he went to throw a kick, and it was your classic, like, 30-year-old trying to kick a football, right? Like, and just completely whiffs and falls on his ass. And man, he got so mad. He was like, this is bullshit. We shouldn't need to be doing this for this. And I'm like, dude, you can do this. It's just a kick. I promise you can do it. Now he does that. It was just a double kick. That's all it was. Like, if you saw it, a question mark kick, if you saw it, you'd be like, oh, that's not a big deal. But, like, for a guy who's never done any karate or taekwondo or lots of, like, kicking in his life, that was a big deal. And he thought he couldn't do it, but then he came back, and now he does it just fine. He does it great. He can do it head height. He can do it everything. And he looks back on that day and he laughs. But at that time, I can tell you, quitting was in his face. It was in his face. I could see it right there. He wanted to walk out and never come back. But he didn't, you know. He stayed with it, stayed strong, and got through it. And that's what it takes to become a black belt. And what it means to be a black belt in jiu-jitsu is way more than just technique. It's about how you approach obstacles in your life. So I'm starting to kind of rant, and I don't want to necessarily rant. I want to keep it concise information. But the point was, discipline is where it all comes down to. You're either going to do the thing or you're not. It starts with inspiration. Hey, I saw Gracie win UFC 1. I think that jiu-jitsu stuff looks awesome. It's something I'd like to try. Awesome. Hey, I heard Jocko on the podcast. He was talking about how jiu-jitsu can change lives and how it's the best form of self-defense. I think that's something I'd want to try. Awesome. Hey, I heard Joe Rogan say, jiu-jitsu is great for your discipline and your self-confidence. It's something I want to try. Awesome. That's your inspiration. Okay? That's not going to last forever. It's going to wane and go away pretty quick, within a couple weeks probably. Then you got your motivation. Hey, I want to get to blue belt level skill. Okay, cool. That's only going to last for a year, 2 years. And then you got there. Then what? You purple belt? Are the belts going to be enough? I can tell you they're not, by the way. I can tell you they're not. They're nice. People love getting them, but they're not enough. It's not enough to say, I'm just going to tie this piece of cloth around my waist. Because what you're going to learn over time is no one gives a shit. None of your friends care. No one cares. Right? Just you. And so it becomes not enough. So your goals have to change. You have to be, okay, well, I can do this sweep now. I can do all these things that no one else cares about. And when it comes to that stuff and no one else cares and you're the only one who cares and you do it anyway, that's discipline pushing you forward. So that's what it takes. Inspiration starts you. Motivation helps. And it comes and goes. Discipline will keep you on track forever. All right, guys. I'll talk to you later. Have a great one.